Welcome ladies and gents, Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter for boxing related tweets. So you can subscribe to the channel, click that notifications button and get a new notification whenever a new video is uploaded. If you like the new introduction, it is courtesy of Callum Newbold. He's starting off as a graphic designer. He contacted me. He said, Chris, listen, I'm a big fan of the show. I've been a subscriber for a while now. Would you be interested in me jazzing up the introduction a little bit? I want nothing in return. I'm trying to build my portfolio, so as long as I can sort of put it in my portfolio, I'd be happy with that. And yeah, I'm very happy and grateful for Callum Newbold's time. If you liked his work, you can check it out. callumnewbold.myportfolio.com/work. Perhaps you're looking to hire someone to do your graphics. Maybe you've got a new website. There's a lot more online shopping going on these days. Perhaps you've created a website and you want some graphics done for it, or you want to mark some sort of special event in your life with some graphics that you might want edited or something like that. Callum might be your man. So contact Callum if that's your thing. I will put the link to his website in the description box of this video. Also, a shameless plug of my own. Fury Wilder 3, The Warnings of Ajax, Icarus and Hubris is the latest video I've done. Now, it's very, very different to anything I've done before. So I'm very, very keen to get everybody's views on this, get everybody's opinions. Basically, it's almost like a storytelling exercise. Very different to anything I've done, like I said, semi-theatrical. If you're into things like Game of Thrones or the movie 300, and you can imagine that sort of energy or aura being married with boxing and talking about how the warnings of ancient mythology are applying to the modern day fight game, check out that video. It's yeah, I think it's, you know, I mean, I like it, but I've had some terrific feedback from people that have watched it. It's still only on 700 something views though, so based on the last couple of months, it's the second lowest view count that I've had. So although it hasn't proved particularly popular, it is popular among those that have watched it. So please do check it out and give me your feedback, because at the end of the day, I want to create content for you guys, and I'm trying to find a niche sort of spot in the market. There are a lot of boxing channels out there, so I'm trying to find something that might be a little bit different. And if you guys like this sort of thing, I might do a little mini series on it. But remember, I'd like honest feedback. So if you've yet to see it, please check it out. Now, moving on to some of the fights we saw this weekend. I'm going to start off with Anthony Yarde. This is probably going to be, it'll be too long a video to do all the different fights that we saw over the weekend, so I'll probably do two different videos. This one will be the Queensberry undercard. We'll talk a little bit about that. Before we get into Anthony Yarde, because I'm not going to spend too long on this because I've yet to see the full fight, but I did see a little bit of Anthony Kakachi and he looked very good, and I saw that he called out, he looked very slick, a lot of upper body movement, picking his shots, almost I don't know, almost American in his style, I want to say. And he was calling out Archie Sharp, who I think is a terrific fighter. That would be a brilliant fight I'd like to see. I haven't seen much of Kakachi in the past, so I was impressed with him. But I'm not going to analyse that because I didn't see enough of the fight. So instead, let's talk about Anthony Yarde. We'll talk about George the Sensation Bance and also Nathan Heaney a little bit. So starting off with Anthony Yarde, you know, when you're fighting a guy of this level, it's very, very difficult to be able to ascertain exactly what it is that you're watching. How good is this guy that he fought? You know, he turned up looking for a payday. He was, you know, the shots that Anthony were landing, he's a big puncher. They didn't seem to be particularly damaging, and he seemed to go down fairly easily, right? So he was a can. I don't mean to be disrespectful. Guys that follow this channel know that I'm not really like that, but I mean, it was really bad, right? But when I'm watching a guy like this, what I'm trying to do is ascertain a few different things. First and foremost, what was Anthony Yarde trying to do? Secondly, would what he was trying to do have been successful against superior level of opposition, or would he have been punished for it? And thirdly, did he have any problems with this guy? Obviously, there were no problems with the guy at all. In terms of the first two things, it's easy sometimes to overanalyze, so perhaps I'm doing that. But let's talk about some of the things that I thought he was trying to do. First and foremost, I've spoken in the past about how Mikey Garcia likes to shift from one side to the other. And before throwing a shot, he will create a little bit of lateral movement to line up his shoulder with your face, the shoulder of the punch he wants to throw with your face, so that it shortens the distance between point A to B. And he does it particularly well with the jab. There was one point where Anthony was sort of on the outside of this guy's left shoulder, and he stepped to the right on the outside of the right shoulder to come low and throw a power sort of low backhand shot to the body, to the solar plexus. And so there was an understanding of angles in that moment. I'm not saying Anthony Yarde doesn't understand angles, generally speaking, but he always strikes me as quite an instinctual fighter. And I'm wondering, was he thinking about that? You know, Cook is now an addition to the corner. Have they spoken about something like that? It only happened on one occasion. Maybe he was hoping he could have implemented that sort of thing a little bit more had the fight worn on. Maybe I'm overanalyzing. Maybe it was just an instinctual thing again. The other thing is that he was clearly looking to engage the opponent's hands to create openings. A lot of little touches here and there. There were points where he was punching the lead hand. There were a couple of moments where the guy was trying to throw a jab and Anthony Yarde was just putting his hand above the jab almost, just to cut it off. He was throwing it though. It wasn't a parry with the glove. He was throwing it to almost use his entire arm to come over the top of the potential jab that was coming his way. Because this guy is a southpaw though, you wouldn't get those same angles with Lyndon Arthur. So he wouldn't be able to use that to come over the jab of Lyndon Arthur, right? Which brings me on to this next point of what was the point of this fight. Not only was this guy there to roll over, not only was he clearly out of shape, not only is he nowhere near the level of Anthony Yarde, stylistically, he's nothing like Anthony Yarde's next opponent. I could understand if they got a guy who was at least semi-durable. I don't expect a guy who's going to want to go rounds and try and win the fight in this sort of keep busy fight. But even if it's a guy who's going to go 3, 4, 5 rounds, if he's tall, has a long jab, and Anthony has to think a little bit or try a couple of different things, I would understand it. But this guy's different stylistically and was there to roll over. It's not even like he's giving him rounds in terms of fitness and keeping him sharp. What was the point of the fight? It's ludicrous, okay? There were a couple of moments, though, that I did find a little bit concerning, if you're Anthony Yarde. Now, to be honest with you, I don't want to overstate this, because the fact of the matter is, he probably looked at this guy, thought this guy's so poor, he gets lazy, and he wouldn't make these mistakes against a better opponent. But nonetheless, we need to talk about what we saw. Between 1 minute and 39 seconds and 1 minute and 36 seconds of the round remaining, he threw 2 very lazy jabs, whereby he threw them and then his arm came down and then it came back up. They didn't come back straight to his face and they were lazy. There was nothing on them. And he was in the pocket and he didn't give a different look. He wasn't trying to exit the line after that or come low, because sometimes you can provide bait. You can throw a lazy jab knowing that your opponent will look to counter that. So then you can counter his counter, right? But he didn't come off of the center line. He didn't change height dynamic. He didn't give a different look. So it makes me think he was just being lazy based on the fact that the guy was throwing nothing back. He couldn't do that against a higher level of opposition. He would have been punished for that. The other thing, after the first knockdown, which, by the way, he did show, although it was, like I said, questionable about how much was on the shot, he did show that willingness to engage the hand, whereby he threw a left uppercut, I believe it was, to the gloves, to engage the lead hand, and then from there whipped in a left hook. So you saw that there. But from after he got up from that, with 1 minute and 1 second remaining, up until 40 seconds of the round remaining, which is when the knockout eventually came, Anthony Yarde had a bit of a poor spell. He telegraphed a left hook, a leaping left hook, and he got countered with a cupping right hook. Now, this guy, like I said, had nothing about him, but had that been a better fighter, it could have caused him a problem. You don't want to be getting caught with a crisp right hook like that against a Joe Smith or a Beterbiev, right? So at a higher level of opposition, he can't just telegraph hooks like that. Billy Joe Saunders telegraphed a shot against Canelo Alvarez and he didn't live to tell the tale, metaphorically speaking, right? So you can't make those errors. The other thing, immediately after that, perhaps he was just keen to get the guy out of there, he started locking that left arm forward straight away, cocking the right hand, walking him down. And the guy exited, Theran basically exited by moving diagonally away towards the right hand, but beyond the point of the reach, and then came across diagonally. So he was provided with quite an easy exit route. You can't do that against high level of opposition. You have to be more effective at cutting a guy off, and you have to disguise a little bit more what you're trying to do. But like I said, I don't want to overanalyze this. I believe Anthony Yarde was going through the motions in second gear because this guy was so poor. I believe it was just a pointless fight, and I feel for Anthony because you want him to be sharp going into this fight, right? Unless they're so confident that they think Lyndon Arthur's going to get dealt with, that they're thinking along the lines of, listen, let's just not take any risk, zero risk, and ensure that we get this fight. We'll put things right, and then we'll start rebuilding from there. Maybe that's how they're seeing it. I don't know. But in terms of preparation, for me, it was just terrible. And you might as well consider Anthony Yarde to have been inactive between the first and the second Lyndon Arthur fight, if that fight is indeed to happen next. Now, moving on from that really quickly, I don't want to make this video too long. George the Sensation Bance, he looked like a fun prospect to watch. Short, stocky, looked like a good prospect. Reminded me a little bit, there was a touch of Melakuziev there. Willing maybe a little bit too much to go to the body, but exciting nonetheless, finding those little spaces behind the elbows, a bit of Canelo there too. You can tell he watches Canelo. Compact, he seems quite heavy-handed, but he throws a lot of single shots that he doesn't build off. And I felt like he was taking portions of the round off. Are there some stamina issues there? If so, I want to see him vary up a little bit his pacing. He was a little bit one-paced. You can throw a lot more shots with nothing on them to preserve your stamina. Amir Khan, completely different stylistically, but he does a lot of that. He will throw a flurry of 3 or 4 shots, and only one of them's a big shot, but it will have an effect, because the first 3 shots are about moving your guard, essentially putting you in a position, or putting himself into a position where he leans. He used to do it very well to throw a good left hook to the body. He'll do it to engage you, to get into a position to throw a left hook to the body. There will be other times where he'll throw something on all of those shots, so it keeps you guessing, is this flurry going to hurt or not? And so that's what I'd like to see George Bance do a little bit more. Vary the pace, find a way to be a little bit more active, even if not every shot you're throwing is a big powerful shot. But yeah, I like the look of him. He looks like an exciting young prospect. We'll see how he develops. He also bypasses the jab a little bit too much. You know, if you're going to watch Canelo Alvarez, you'll know that he has a very thudding and accurate jab. So make sure you develop that. In terms of Nathan Heaney, good solid jab. He steps into it quite consistently. It's a good jab. Sometimes stepping into it again, that lack of variation, he's very much about keeping it long. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, Vladimir Klitschko was a master at that. But Vladimir Klitschko would be varied with that lead hand. You know, sometimes he'd come around the guard and he'd toy with it and he'd move it around a lot. You didn't know what was coming, and he'd push through and come round and stuff like that. I want to see Haney be a little bit more varied with that jab and with the backhand. You know, when he did have success just before the knockout, he threw an uppercut. So that variation is what led to the knockout eventually coming. You don't want too much variation, because you don't want him to shorten him up too much, because one little thing I've noticed, which I guess is a little bit concerning for Heaney, he does seem very stiff in the back, and he seems to blink quite a bit when he's attacked, which is some sort of a sign that maybe he doesn't like it. He's not 100% comfortable under that assault. It's something that I noticed when it came to David Price, when people were talking about him being the next big thing in heavyweight boxing, and I used to say, no, I think it's going to be Tyson Fury, back when Tyson Fury was being mocked for punching himself in the face. One of the reasons was that David Price would blink and sort of look uncomfortable, cover up, shift his weight onto his heels. He didn't look 100% comfortable when under attack. And I see that a little bit with Heaney. So what I'd like to see Heaney do in the gym is work on situations where he's not throwing punches back, where they've cut off a certain segment of the ring, maybe he's got his back to the ropes, and he's just working on rolling with shots. You know, and until he becomes an expert at that, or very good at that, I don't want to see him shortening shots too much. You don't want to see him exchanging. You've got that range. You've got that ability to fight at range. Keep it there predominantly, but vary it up a little bit more. He has been involved in a very entertaining Twitter beef today with Florian Marku. Florian's a funny guy, man. He wants that smoke from everyone. Marku started it off saying, Nathan Heaney is a good guy, but I can go to middleweight and KO him badly. Heaney replied, need I remind you that a complete and utter novice welterweight from Stoke with 0 amateur experience and only 2 professional fights to his name took your perfect record away when he only had 24 hours notice to fight you. You want a proper lad. You wouldn't want a proper lad from the Potteries, pal. You are entertaining and an engaging fella, but I'd absolutely splatter you with the jab alone, Marku. You're bloody tiny. Marku replied, anyone that watches the fight knows what happened. You are being protected because your body is made of Pringles, you stupid guy. When I am done with Prodan, I will come to the middleweight and fight you in your home stadium and bring all my fans with me. Do you accept? Yes or no? And at that point, Heaney basically mocked him, saying that, you know, what, you're going to come down with your 300 Albanians, and Sam Jones got involved and said, actually, he's a bigger ticket seller than you, and that's saying something. So it's interesting to see how this plays out. Is Marku going to move to middleweight to fight Nathan Heaney? Like, he wants to smoke with everyone. Is it just clout chasing, you know, building a bit of a reputation among both guys, you know? But it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one for sure. Keep your eye on that and how that develops. But yeah, so there are areas that these guys can all work on. Thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know what you think. What was the point in this Yarde fight? Do you see any benefit? Am I overanalyzing with some of the little things I'm talking about spotting? Does it make a difference at all to what you've seen with regards to how you think it will go with the Arthur fight? Perhaps you think that because of this nobody opponent and this nothing fight, it essentially extends that period of inactivity, and you might feel like that makes the difference. You know, you might say he's been too inactive and it's going to cost him. Maybe that's how you feel, or maybe you feel it makes no difference to the result whatsoever. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, everyone. Chat to you soon. Take care. God bless.